Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteus. Today we'll be diving into an insightful discussion on the influence on Elon Musk in global politics. Elon Musk is trying to become a powerful force in European politics, using his platform X to push for far-right agendas. Recently, Musk demanded new elections in Britain, targeting Prime Minister Keir Starmer over a child grooming scandal. He also called for the release of far-right extremist Tommy Robinson from prison and publicly supported the anti-immigration Reform UK party led by Nigel Farage. His influence in Germany has also been felt, where he's backed far-right political movements. Musk's statements and political endorsements are causing turmoil, especially with his close ties to US President-elect Donald Trump. The British government has responded cautiously, with Health Minister Andrew Gwynne advising Musk to focus on US issues, while other politicians have criticised his views as misinformed. The opposition Conservative Party have also criticised Musk for sharing things that are factually inaccurate. This raises a critical question: is Elon Musk exerting too much influence on global politics? And is X becoming a powerful platform for amplifying controversial issues and disinformation with real-world consequences? Joining us for this discussion is Russ Feingold, a political activist, and Barney Chowdhury, editor for The Eastern Eye and lecturer in journalism at the University of East Anglia. Thank you very much for joining us. Barney, I wanted to come first to you. I wanted you to tell me about Tommy Robinson and his influence in the UK and this grooming gangs scandal. Is there any truth to it at all?
Well, Tommy Robinson is a member of the English Defence League, which is a right-wing extremist party which goes about trying to say that immigration is bad and that all immigrants are nothing more than criminals. And he's made a living out of targeting Muslims in Britain, and only a few years ago was found to be defamatory against a certain teenager whom he accused of being a criminal when that wasn't the case. And he was jailed, and let's not forget he was jailed for contempt of court and for repeating those defamatory remarks last year. That's the reason why he's in jail, not because he's the seeker or the purveyor of truth, but because he is a liar, a proven liar. And the High Court said so, and the courts of England said so, and he admitted to propagating lies. As far as the grooming scandal is concerned, look, here's the thing, Tom. It happens. Child sexual abuse happens. And it's not a brown, black, or white thing. All communities take part in it. But the figures, and that's what we need to delve into, show a story which isn't being told because of the amplification on social media of fake news.
Thank you very much, Barney. I want to go to Ross Feingold, political analyst. Is Trump using his influence responsibly, or is he overstepping political boundaries in giving someone like Tommy Robinson a voice?
Well, President Trump is not going to look at it that way. He's going to look at it from the perspective of he's the U.S. president. The U.S. is the most powerful country in the world, and he's entitled to have his opinions over not just domestic U.S. politics, but also the politics of other countries as well, including friendly countries like the United Kingdom. I don't think we should expect that in his second term, President Trump is suddenly going to become more circumspect or more silent when it comes to commenting on the domestic politics of other countries. And it's common for U.S. politicians to comment on the politics of other countries as well, whether we like that or not, or whether or not we think it's the right thing to do. This sort of comes with the United States' role as being the leader of the free world, as people often describe it. So in Trump 2.0, I think we should prepare ourselves for Trump frequently commenting on domestic political issues of other countries, especially when there's some connection to an issue that President Trump cares a lot about. And the one that comes to mind immediately is immigration. And if President Trump thinks other countries are not doing enough to secure their borders, he's going to say something. If he thinks there's good examples of countries that do secure their borders, he's also going to say something. And I think we have to be prepared to live with that.
Adit Kothari, I wanted to ask you, does Musk's support for Tommy Robinson legitimize far-right ideologies?
No, I don't think it sort of legitimizes far-right ideology as such, but I think it rakes up a very important question, a pertinent question that a lot of people have tried to sort of brush under the mug, under the carpet, and feel uncomfortable talking about it. It's the sense of political correctness around the subject of grooming gangs, which people in Britain, policymakers, law enforcement agencies are typically not comfortable talking about it because they feel that if they were to go into that tangent or into that domain about talking about it, they would be classed as bigots or racists or Islamophobic in this case, primarily because if you look at the grooming gang cases, particularly in Britain, almost 90% of the so-called non-white offenders are of Pakistani origin. However, the mainstream media, the policymakers, the polity continues to harp upon this as a Asian gang problem. You don't see Chinese, you don't see Japanese, you don't see Filipino, you don't see Indian, Sri Lankan, Bangladeshi men, typically involved in these sort of grooming gang cases. It's typically a Pakistani problem, which the polity doesn't want to sort of acknowledge. And that is what.
That's not true.
I didn't interrupt
Barney,
you.
I would like to bring you in there. Do you have a response?
Can I just finish if I'm given a couple of more minutes, please? Just going into that domain of Tommy Robinson as well. A lot of people who opine on Tommy Robinson don't know anything about Tommy Robinson. They're not even connected to him. They've not followed him. They've not sort of heard him or attended his rallies. I've actually attended both his rallies in London. And I can tell you that he is a caricature, a representation of the mainstream media is what we get to hear from various people who dislike Tommy.
I would like Barney to respond to that, please.
White people, when it comes to child sexual abuse, account for 88% of those who are convicted. When it comes to South Asians, Pakistanis are 2%, Indians are 1%, Bangladesh are 1%. So that makes a total of 7% in terms of the South Asian child sexual abusers who have been charged, who have been convicted. Those are the latest figures from the Home Office. So the majority of the people who do child sexual abuse are white in this country. And when it comes to South Asians, both Sri Lankans, Pakistanis, Indians and Bangladeshis take part in this. It's not as simple as that. You've got to drill down to the figures.
No, but you've also got to look at the proportion of. You've got to look at the proportion of percentage of population as well. For example, Oldham.
No. Let me give you the figures. I live in the UK.
I live in the UK as well.
I understand. I've been an investigative journalist for the past 43 years, and I've been doing this topic for the past 43 years. I'm renowned for doing that. So let me explain something to you, which is this. 2% of Pakistanis are child sexual abusers. That 2% of Britons are Pakistani heritage. Indians, 1%, but they are 3% of the population. Bangladeshis, 1% child sexual abusers, 1% live in Britain who are Bangladeshis. Let's drill down to the fact of the figures. Let's not amalgamate everybody. I understand.
Barney Chowdhury, I have to have Adit Kothari to have a chance to respond on that.
I don't know where you're getting these figures from, but I'll take your word for it. If you're saying it's from the Home Office, if you're saying it's from the Home Office data, yes, of course.
You haven't done any research.
No, I have, which is why I'm giving you my. Let me give you my figures.
Done any research.
Let me give you my research. For example, if you look at Oldham, if you look at areas where, like Telford, if you look at Redbridge, all of these areas where there is a problem, 1 in 73 Pakistani males in Oldham are somehow or the other connected to the problem of grooming gangs. So basically, it's an institutional problem. When they come out from when they're basically let out of these jails, when they come back into society, they're not ostracized by the institutions. In fact, they get institutional patronage of some sort. They get political patronage of some sort, and it's to a disproportionate amount of level. That's the political correctness which I'm talking about. That needs to be kicked into the dustbin, which we haven't done.
Ross,
we are uncomfortable talking about these issues.
Ross, thank God, I want to bring in now, this shows the danger of misinformation and the amount of information that's out there. Elon Musk is the owner of Twitter, and he has been known to spread this disinformation. What is the impact that he has?
He's extraordinarily influential. Tens of millions of followers on social media. One of the world's or the world's most wealthy person, depending on what day you do the calculation. His companies are constantly in the news. And he's at the side and has the ear of the next president of the United States. So this is a very influential person. And he clearly connects with a portion of the public, whether that's in the United States or more recently in Europe. When he talks about certain social or political issues, he's clearly voicing a sentiment that many people have, for good or for bad, rightly or wrongly, especially on the topic of immigration. We know that immigration policy has become an enormous source of frustration for part of the political divide, whether that's in the United States or Europe. There are people who feel that there's too much immigration. There are people who feel that it's not a problem. But Elon Musk in his commentary is clearly taking the side of people who feel that there's been too much inbound migration. And he's going to connect with ever more millions of people to the extent that he voices those opinions. So as we get closer to the start of the Trump administration, I would say that we're far, far away from reaching peak Elon Musk. We're certainly going to be reading more and more about his opinions about political issues, whether that's in the United States or in other countries. He's certainly going to take to his platform and continue to voice his opinions on these issues.
Barney Chowdhury, I want to come to you next. Elon Musk has been very public in his support for Nigel Farage and now, obviously, Tommy Robinson. As a South Asian living in the UK, how does this rhetoric affect you?
I don't have a problem with it. I think freedom of speech is very, very important. I would go to my dying days having that freedom of speech. But with it comes responsibility. With it comes the fact that you've got to check your facts out. I don't have a problem about speaking unpalatable truths. I don't deny and I don't reject the concept that we have a problem with certain communities. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with is when we focus all our attention and we spin it to such an extent that says in black and white terms that all immigration and all immigrants are bad. Because that's the narrative that's being put across in the United Kingdom, in the United States, in the Western world.
Adit Kuthari, I wanted to bring you in after the Southport attacks in the UK. There was misinformation that was promoted by by Musk's social media. What do you think about this situation as well? And is that Musk wielding too much power?
Look, when it comes down to the topic of disinformation and misinformation, I don't think we should be painting only one side as criminals or one side who are the problem makers. I think it's on both sides of the fence. Whether you're a follower of right-wing politics or you subscribe to the right-wing politics or to the left-wing politics, I think both have been indulging in spreading disinformation and misinformation equally. One's just a bit craftier, one's just more. They tend to provide it with intellectual cover fire. Whereas, someone like a Tommy Robinson doesn't have that sort of nuanced understanding of the subject and goes on to make these sort of ludicrous mistakes as he did with his documentary. So that's the difference between the two sides of the fence. Both of them need to be called out. When we look at people like who are associated to open society and, the various wings of the open society who are operating in the UK and the Indian subcontinent, they've all been, sort of harboring and patronizing disinformation to a great extent, which we don't call out very often. But we tend to pick up on people like Tommy Robinson because they're easy targets at the end of the day. who are not educated enough to understand the nuances of how to play with information. That is the problem that we see with this particular subject. Tom.
Ross Feingold, I wanted to ask you, are Musk's political endorsements a threat to democracy?
I wouldn't agree with that at present, because typically he's endorsing candidates who are participating in democratic processes. So to the extent he's commenting on US politics or Western European politics, where most Western European countries have democratic elections, he's commenting on people who are entitled to run for office, and that may very well receive the vote of a substantial portion of the electorate, or enough of the electorate to get those candidates elected to office. So I wouldn't say that it's a threat to democracy, but I certainly share the concerns about misinformation or disinformation. Clearly, Mr. Musk has often, and especially recently, he's been very quick to tweet or repost information that is in fact not factually accurate. And it's something that I think would behoove him to be a little bit more careful about.
So in the UK, Elon Musk has accused Keir Starmer of being complicit in the crimes, being complicit in the grooming gang scandal. Barney Chowdhury, what do you think of this?
He's misinformed. When Keir Starmer was the Director of Public Prosecutions, he made sure that a chap called Nazir Afzal, who was the chief prosecutor in the northwest of England, went after the Rochdale grooming gang. Not because he was afraid of being called a racist, but because that needed to be tackled. So when it came down to it, Keir Starmer, along with Nazir Afzal, were at the forefront of trying to stop grooming gangs from taking place. It's never been hidden, but we don't hear about that because it doesn't fit the narrative arc of the likes of Tommy Robinson or Elon Musk. Look, Elon Musk is a powerful man, and he's made his money, and he does absolutely what he wants to do with his money. I don't have a problem with that. All I'm suggesting is that it's not black, brown, or white. It's got to be nuanced in what he does. I don't have a problem with public debate. It's really important that we have this debate. It's not about political correctness. It's not about wokery. It's about lack of factual accuracy in terms of the data, in terms of how we interpret it. And that creates huge problems for people like me with a brown skin in this country. Because every single time I walk into a street, I am looked upon in a different way from if I were white.
I want to come to back to Adit Kathari with that statement. What do you think? Do you think Musk should there be some more checks in regards to this? Should Musk have less political power?
Look, I don't think we can restrict Elon Musk from what he's doing. Previously you've had the likes of George Soros and the Open Society Foundations who've exercised a lot of political power. They've been instrumental in engineering changes in governments in various countries, including Britain, in the United Kingdom. We cannot sort of put checks and balances to that degree to set some sort of controls with Elon Musk. But yes, I think he should be held accountable for platforming any sort of disinformation and misinformation when he does. When it comes down to the subject of Keir Starmer, I think he's got a personal agenda. He's got a personal axe to grind with the Labour Party of Britain, because the Labour Party, was basically endorsing the Harris campaign, and they sort of saw this as some sort of interference, and now they basically going after the Labour Party in Britain. But having said that, I don't think Keir Starmer should also be he should be absolved of his tenure as chief prosecutor when he was in Oldham. There were 21 meetings of sentencing where child sex abuses were not, they were not, they were not sent to prison as a consequence. There were standing committees where Keith Vaz has basically, he had chaired this committee meeting, and there were questions, compelling questions asked of Mr. Keir Starmer, and you can see him that, he was trying to deflect these questions. So the point is that, within the Labour Party and within the polity in general, whether it be the Labour Party, whether it be the Conservatives, they have this sort of political correctness which they want to toe. And that is the basic problem. It's not the problem of skin. I've been in this country for over about 20 years, and I have never felt any sort of othering from a sort of a Caucasian person, or any sort of a white othering issue. Where I have felt othering is probably more from a South Asian perspective, where where there are Pakistanis or Bangladeshis or Sri Lankans. That's where true racism predominantly still exists. But to say that the whites in the UK look at us as brown skins, and there is a sense of a racism, a sense of bigotry that still exists and still prevails, I think we'll be intellectually bankrupt to say something like that. Tom.
Ross Feingold, I wanted to bring the conversation back to Musk. Obviously, he has been advocating for Germany's AfD party as well as the UK Reform Party. What's his end goal in this?
I think to continue to have a voice, to continue to be a prominent person in political and public policy discussions. Keep in mind that this often helps his companies as well. His companies very often need regulatory approvals in the countries where they're doing business. So to the extent that the politicians that he supports actually get into parliament or they get into government, they're going to be probably going to be supportive of Musk's companies, whether that's Tesla or Starlink or SpaceX. So he does have a business incentive as well to remain engaged with public policy discussion and even to advocate for certain politicians, because like I said, when they get into office, they're going to be more inclined to repay his support by making favorable decisions for his companies. And in a way that's unavoidable, because his companies are so big and everything they do, nearly everything they do, requires regulatory approvals and the goodwill of governments. To the extent that he's commenting on politics, there's an inherent conflict there.
Barney, I want to come back to you on this next one. How is the UK responding to these tweets? Do you think Nigel Farage, what's Nigel Farage's response?
Well, I think Nigel Farage has certainly put his mask. We know what he thinks. He's a big Trump file. He's a big America file. He knows that reform is in the ascendance. He knows that there is a narrative that political correctness has gone mad in this country. I just don't think that it's a case of Nigel Farage and Elon Musk and Donald Trump. For me, it's more nuanced than that. It's about understanding that we are going through a phase in this country which we go through cyclically. And having lived in this country for 55 plus years, it's just clear to me that it's a cycle. It will get through it. Britain is that way inclined. It's the best country in the world when it comes to race relations. What I'm saying is that it's not as the land of panacea that my colleague, who happens to have lived in this country for 20 plus years, is saying that it is. We're going to disagree with that. That's fine. I think in terms of Nigel Farage, he's a political opportunist, but political opportunists triumph.
Ross Feingold, I wanted to come to you next. We are seeing a rise in far-right politics throughout Europe. Some would say America is. What do you think of this? Why is this occurring?
Immigration numbers that have taken place over the past 10 years, most notably from Syria, but also from other countries in North Africa or the Middle East. And it's easy to identify the other and say that they're the cause of all evils. And we saw some of that in the recent US presidential election as well. The rise of the far right is a response to also economic dislocation. People feel that they're left behind and that a small number of the privileged class get to race ahead, but the rest of us are left behind. So far right parties also have an appeal to that. And also to the extent that there's an appeal to anti-Semitism as well, and I'm speaking as a Jewish American, I mean, we've seen this before with disastrous consequences in the Holocaust. But unfortunately, it's worked in Europe before, and it might possibly work again.
Thank you very much. Everyone, thank you for joining us for this discussion. We appreciate your time. For more international news, please join us again on NewsX World. Thank you.